What's up, bikers? I'm Robert, and this is the B1KER Bar Podcast live stream. Nailed the intro 2 weeks in a row. Yes, I had to check before before we started just to make sure that I got it right. But it is what it is. Episode 104. Today we have the segment. If you guys haven't listened to his podcast or checked out his channel, please do so. I'll put the links and show more, which actually I should have done that already. Pretty sure they're already there. And it was a long time ago this morning when I set that up. I can't remember anymore. I'm positive it's there. Anyways, before we get started, do me a favor. If you don't follow me on Instagram, do it now, and then I will stop bugging you, and then you just get to listen to everybody else that I'm telling that every week. Go to my Instagram, go to my Facebook, at B1KER, and give me a follow. Free content over there. Those of you guys that would like to see this channel grow and me to tell my job to go screw themselves. I was trying to think of the nicest way to say that and still stay employed. And then once if you want to help me do that, just like go into work and be like, fuck you, you're cool, I'm out. And then what I need you to do is go to Patreon, you and about like 1,000 of your buddies, but every one of you that does it, then it helps. And that would be great. So patreon.com/B1KER, B1KER, or you just go to the channel here or in the show more or whatever. There's links everywhere to get the Patreon. For $1 a month, it's like throwing $1 at the bartender after you order a beer. That would be great. Or you could throw maybe $5 my way because you really enjoy this podcast and you want to fill my fridge full of beer, because apparently over the holidays, me and my friends have completely emptied that thing. It's ridiculous. Outside of that, if you'd like to pick up some merch, like some cool shirts or whatnot, go to my shop. It's on biker.com, B1KER.com. You know how many times I'm going to tell you to spell this? You know, I should probably do it over and over again, because every time I hand somebody a sticker, they're like, oh, right on, B1KER B1, thanks. Or B1KER, or B1, everybody screws it up. So here's your opportunity. Spell it right, B1KER.com. Go pick up a shirt, and that'll be that. Outside of that, I one of these days, I'm going to wisen up. I'm going to have a whole script of what I talk about at the beginning of the show. But today is not that day. Instead, I'm just going to go ahead and bring our guest back on. Here he is. What's up, man? How's it going?
What's up, Robert? Good to see you, man. Thank you so much for having me on the B1KER Biker Bar show.
I was on somebody else's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it was like he was trying to do the intro, and he kept being like, the B1KER or the biker podcast. I'm like, no, it's B1KER Bar, man. But I think it was my own fault. Like, I've had this conversation a bunch of times. When I built my first logo, it was just like a big B1, and then it says like biker on the bottom or something like that. And you know, because the slogan, the channel slogan is like, it only takes a bike to be a biker, get out and be one.
I love that.
And I wanted that B1 to like help people remember that it's spelled B1KER. So if they were searching it, you know, on YouTube or whatever, they weren't typing in biker, BIKER, right?
Right.
And because that logo has that big B1 in it, like everybody's just like, oh, B1 biker. I'm like, fuck, I just changed my name to B1 biker and just lean into it.
At least they can find you, because, you know, if you Google B1KER, you show up. So
yeah, right. So yeah, if they do one B1 bike, if they do B1, usually I'm coming up by that point. There's not a whole lot of B1 somethings. So fortunately, there's some like Russian motorcycle guy that has biker on a couple of different platforms. That's where I couldn't like get biker across the board. So then, you know, that's like the toughest thing of starting, right? Trying to get a name that's not used everywhere.
Right.
How'd you come up with the segment? I'm sure that's used all over the place. I know on your Instagram, you had to add some stuff on the end of it.
Oh yeah, I did the underscore with the PR on there for, you know, your personal best. And yeah, there was already a segment on YouTube, but then I found out that they go with like numbers. So they're like, yeah, there could be more than one segment on there. And apparently there's some segments that are doing really, really good.
You're like, I'll just ride on their shirt tails. Hopefully people are looking for them. They find me by accident. I'm cool with it.
Exactly.
I didn't think of the PR there on the end of it. I am like I guess I was like totally being like corporate whenever I saw that, because I was thinking like PR, like public relations. Like I was like, why did he put that in there? That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that was more of just one of the nuances with Instagram so that I could have the segment on there. I had to come up with something at the end of it. And
Yeah.
at the time, I wasn't sure if the segment was only going to be MTB or if it was going to reach out across a broad platform of
Hmm.
different athletes. And so I just put PR on there for
Yeah.
like your personal best.
Yeah. Yeah. It totally makes sense. You could have spelled it S3 and then just had everybody calling you all kinds of weird shit for the rest of
I
your
know.
YouTube career.
I know. Well, I don't know if you get this. I'll be out on the trails and I'll hear people refer to me as the segment.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I feel like that's my cool, YouTube nickname. People are like the segment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking around like, where, who's that?
Yeah. 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 So you have like I think 1,000 something on your channel right now.
Yeah, I just eclipsed 1,000 a few months back, and
Uh-huh.
that felt really good. And
Yeah. It's
then,
tough. That first 1,000 is definitely you feel like it takes forever to get there.
oh man, that first 1,000 was rough. It definitely is a goal. And then, man, then you see guys come on the scene that are just so hot and they like fly to the top. You got Bobo out there what did he just eclipse 100,000?
Yeah, but he put a lot of time in before he got to um where he is now. I think, once he realized that the segments that he was doing, the like little short kind of comedic skits, I think once he zeroed in on that, then his numbers grew, because him and I were like neck and neck in size for a long time. And then once he did that, it was like, well, see you later, Robert.
Wow. His stuff is funny too. I mean, I love everything he does. Him and you know who I think is going to hit the stratosphere, or probably already has, but I think Colorado Kid as well. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah, he puts a lot of time into his edits. I'm like, I'm not sure what's holding him back. He's definitely he's a good creator. And I think sometimes it's just a matter of like dialing in all your craft. You know what I mean? So who
Totally.
knows? Sometimes it's just, I don't know, maybe freaking YouTube. I don't think the algorithm likes me. I think I pissed him off somewhere along the line.
The algorithm, I don't understand it, and I guess it's changing all the time. And I kind of hung my hat where as long as I'm trying to grow and create and have fun, and it's fun, then it is what it is. But obviously, we all want to grow and be more, and eventually, it'd be great if this ever took over our own incomes, and
Right,
became the main
right.
source of income. And it could definitely happen. It's
Yeah,
just,
I feel like the podcast is the better way that way.
yeah,
Like realistically, I mean, I would like to be a creator, but I if I'm being honest with myself, I'm a better talker than I am creator. And and then plus I feel like I could do this when I was like 65 and it wouldn't matter. You know what I
right.
mean? Like I don't know if I could make like POV content that people would give a shit about watching until I was 65. You know what I'm saying?
Totally, totally. I'm on the same brainwave as you on that, because God, you can get people on the show that are extremely talented and you can learn from where they've been, and you can
Yeah.
get beginners on, you can get everybody on, and if you're injured yourself, you can still talk and
Yeah.
put on a show and have impact on people and create this content this way.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely fun that way. So what made you decide to get started?
So I'm a COVID writer. When COVID started in 2019, or was it 2020?
Yeah,
when
whatever.
COVID
2020.
2020 when COVID started, my son and I were like, well, everything was shutting down, and my son's birthday was coming up. I have two kiddos, and the oldest was turning 9, and he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Let's get bikes, Dad. I mean, we don't have to check the surf for that. We don't have to go to the gym for that. We don't have to
Mm-hmm.
check the swell direction, any of that stuff. We could just go outside the front door and ride and have fun." So we both got mountain bikes that day. And I don't know, man. There was something about riding on the bike for the first time down a trail that it felt like there was something I've been missing for years. And
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, I was heavily, heavily into skateboarding. My dream was to be a professional skateboarder,
Mm-hmm.
travel around the world, do contests and things like that. And then college hit, and then corporate world hit, and then got married, raising a family, all that stuff hit. And I didn't feel that feeling until I literally got on the mountain bike and started going down a trail. All that passion came back from
Yeah.
the skateboard days. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that. Um, I mean, that I think I had that same kind of trajectory, I guess you could say. Just for me, it was like revitalizing riding bikes. I rode bikes a lot when I was younger, and I was into mountain biking then, and kind of took the break in the middle with the young kids and the new family and whatever. And then somewhere along the line, I decided to get back into it, and here we are, right? So
Yeah. So it's so good. And you could see the community is so great. I mean, in other sports that I've done, the community is competitive, and sometimes it's competitive to like to a bummer level. Whereas this one, everyone seems to be so in for it for each other, like rooting for each other, helping each
mhm.
other get through places. You even have a phrase like "I'll tell you when." It's so helpful. And today I was riding with a squad, and one of the guys broke his collarbone,
Oh
and I was
no.
Yeah, it was a bad jump. He got bucked, went OTB, ended up breaking a collarbone and breaking a rib. And
Mm.
I was walking him back down to the truck to get him out of there, and come to find out, this guy is a Purple Heart Army veteran who
Oh
fought
wow.
for us in Iraq. And I got to hear the coolest stories while I was talking to him. And he was there with his son, and his son was a younger kiddo. I didn't want him to get freaked out that his dad was injured, so I just kept trying to talk and
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure that the guy was coherent and making
yeah,
sense and things. But everybody we passed along the way, "Are you guys okay? Do you guys need help?" And every single person, like nobody blew past us without giving us a look.
yeah,
So, I mean, that just speaks novels to our community. It's amazing.
yeah, yeah. And you're down in Southern California, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm down here in a place called Murrieta,
Mhm.
California.
Yeah, yeah. I used to live in a city up here called Rancho Murrieta, and then people always would call them Murrieta by short, and then there would always be somebody that was like, "Oh, down in LA?" And he's like, "No, man, up here."
Right, right. No,
Yeah.
you're in Northern California, right, Robert?
Yeah, 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 just out of Sacramento here, so
Nice.
about yeah, yeah, it's good. So, you answered my question sorta when I
Yeah.
asked you what got you into it. You told me how you got into writing, but why did you decide to start a channel?
Yeah, so the segment really came from my son was watching a lot of YouTube, and I was looking at a lot of YouTube to learn how to do certain things. And I always had this want to try to give positive impact on people,
Mhm.
and that comes from a different world. So, if we rewind back before I was a mountain biker, I used to try to help friends of mine that were in different sports, kind of motivate them with text messages or what have you. And one of the friends that I had is a gentleman by the name of Brees, who was the quarterback from the New Orleans Saints.
Mhm.
And I met him in 2011, and became friends with him. And I started thinking, like, man, how can I impact this friend? What can I do for this guy who seemingly looks like whenever he meets somebody, potentially people want stuff from him. So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
how could I be a friend where I'm giving him something? And the best thing I could think of at the moment was sending him motivational quotes.
Mhm.
So the first year that I became his buddy, the first season, I found motivational quotes. We'd start with a theme, and I'd send him a motivational quote prior to each game of the season, and he'd ping me back like, "That was a great one." So I just kept going for the next game. All right, I found this motivational quote,
Uh-huh.
and it just kept rolling on. And like 9 years later, we just did it for every single game for all those different seasons.
Oh,
And
wow.
when I got into the mountain biking, I thought, how can I potentially bridge that feeling of impacting people in a positive way? Perhaps maybe I can show my progression as like a dad on a
Mhm.
mountain bike and just put that out there.
Mhm.
So I came up with the segment because I was kind of looking around, and I saw that people were using Strava, and Strava was new to me. I Googled it. I found out that about 50 million people use Strava. And it was all, for what I saw, it was all based around PRs, KOMs, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I thought, similar to the podcast, I thought, well, I'm not that good of a writer, but if I can film people trying to be their PR and create some kind of a platform where we can watch them challenge their best and become their best. They're not competing against anybody but themselves.
Right.
And, I did a few episodes kind of looking at that, but I started realizing everybody that I talked to setting it up, I found out that everybody had a story, and there was either fighting depression or trying to lose weight, or they've been doing this their whole life and they were a professional at one point in time and they just love it. And I thought that was really interesting. And so I got lucky enough I met MTV Allen, and MTV Allen came on my show. At the time it was a Zoom. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and and lucky enough, Allen taught me about StreamYard and how to put, podcasts out there, and he helped coach me to get it going. And I
Oh,
did
that's
one of my
cool.
first interviews with MTV Allen.
Right on.
Yeah, and he just encouraged me, from the beginning, like, keep going with this. You
Yeah.
like it, and you're, seemingly doing okay. So
How do you
uh,
meet Drew Brees? You guys were just like riding an elevator and you're like, hey man, you want to know my Instagram?
yeah, pretty much. It was funny. I was at a park down the street from my house, and
Uh-huh.
it was just a dad chasing my kid around. And then I looked over, and there was another dad chasing his two kids around. At the time, he had two kids.
He couldn't keep up with you. You were like just dusting him. You're like, oh, you must be a quarterback.
No, I didn't even know it was him.
Yeah.
He was wearing a hat and sunglasses, and he had two kiddos. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we go to this park all the time, and I always see people there, and just thought it was another dad, and
Yeah.
found myself talking to this other dad, and we're watching the
Bullshitting, yeah.
kids and everything, just talking normal stuff. And then a couple people came up and asked him for his autograph, and I kind of looked at him, and he took off his sunglasses at one point, and I'm like, holy cow, I think that's Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And then I just ran into him a couple more times after that. Turns out that they had a house in the neighborhood, and
hmm
that's how we became friends. Just
Oh,
running
that's
into him
cool.
multiple times. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 That's pretty cool.
it took
I
me a
would
while
imagine,
too.
yeah, I
Oh,
would imagine somebody like that, you're probably a little guarded on like making friends because you don't know like what people maybe want or like what their motivation is, or you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
yeah, yeah, that's
Totally.
interesting.
It took me a long time to even bring up football, because when I was talking to him, I didn't know who he was at that moment. So I was just talking to him like a dad. And then
Yeah.
when I realized who he was, I told myself I need to make a point to continue to talk to him like a dad, like he's a dad in the neighborhood, and
Yeah.
make sure he feels welcome to the neighborhood like a neighbor.
Right. Right.
And then it took a while for me to even bring up football. I was like,
Right.
"Oh," but I did notice I used to wear, like, San Diego Chargers stuff when,
Uh-huh.
because I was down in San Diego at the time, and I
Uh-huh.
slowly started removing my San Diego stuff. In one season, I took off the San Diego Chargers hat, I put on a Saints hat, and I said, "Okay, man, I joined the nation. I joined the Who Dat Nation."
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that was a
He
good
seems like a
day.
pretty rad dude. I know I've seen him on that Bear Grylls show,
Mm,
and he just like really like seemed pretty rad. But then I saw him, I think you were on that. Didn't you guys do a ride with Tasco? Like
we
on
did.
e-bike or something like that, and YT or something like that?
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
just like naturally was like a mountain biker by the end of the ride, like boosting
Oh,
gaps and shit like that.
it was crazy, Robert. I mean, when we got out there, I set it up with the president of YT. I said, "Hey, I got a friend who I'm bringing in. I want to do a ride like with a small squad. Let's go out and show him the trails." And then I revealed who he was. And then I reached out to Nate at Tasco and said, "Hey, my buddy's gonna need some gear. I don't know if you'd be willing to kick in some gear for the friend of mine." I reached out to Seven IDP at the time, was supporting me for like protective gear.
Mm-hmm.
Seven sent out some helmets and things for Drew, and then we had Spy Optic provide some goggles. So once he put the full face on the goggles, he could be
Yeah.
next to everybody, and nobody would know who he
Right.
was.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, we got him on a decoy. The president of YT took us out at the YT trails out there in San Clemente,
That's pretty
and
cool.
so at the beginning, Drew was like, "What buttons do what?" He had a dropper seat. He had
Yeah.
like shifted from trail to boost mode.
Yeah,
He
it was
had
crazy watching the progression the whole way through the video because he
right,
definitely like had not been on a bike in a long time when he started the video. And
yes,
like then by the end of the video, he's like trying to hit this gap, and I'm like, "What are you fucking? This guy's off the hook, man."
dude, it was crazy. And I was like, "Are you sure you want to hit this, bro? Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, yeah, I got this." It's just that level of athleticism that
Right.
he has. And you could also see that everything he did prior to the point where he jumped on the mountain bike, and he had literally retired before he jumped on the mountain bike, everything had been for football,
Yeah.
so he can't get hurt. He's got to do everything within the time that's allotted for him to prepare and be the best he can be to
Yeah.
help win a championship for that city and for that team and to be the leader for that team.
Yeah.
And to see him on a bike that he had said, like, God, I think it's been like 20 years or something. I think I
Right.
remember him saying that it's been that long since he had been on a bike.
Yeah.
And then we put him on an e-bike with all these different buttons on it and a dropper seat button,
Yeah.
front brake, back brake, like
Right.
all that stuff. He didn't remember which one to pull.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't show it in the video, but on the first berm, he pulled front brake and washed out. And he's like, oh, that's right. I got to go right hand, back brake. And that was like
Yeah. Yeah.
the only time he fell.
Yeah.
He dialed it in after that.
Yeah. Right.
It was
Yeah. That's
crazy.
pretty rad though.
It was
That's pretty cool.
it was cool. It was fun day.
Yeah. 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 So it definitely looked like it. I think Tasco put out an edit too, or some. I've seen a couple. Like I think there was more than one video, right?
Yeah, Tasco did a blog on the day and wrote up an article
Maybe
on
that's
the
what it
kit
was.
that they provided for him, and I think that's housed on Tasco's website. I think Nate put that on the website.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good though, and it was nice to see how he wrote that up and kind of the time
Yeah.
that they spent. So that was very cool.
So you use that 7 IDP stuff?
So I did, yeah. I had 7 IDP, and I now have a new protective gear company, but I can't disclose it yet because there's a bigger YouTuber in front of me who's going to be the primary, person for that brand,
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't signed the contract yet. So once they sign the contract and they get their media out and everything, then I can start wearing mine and promoting it for
Oh,
this brand. But I can say it's very cool because the particular company that's going to be supplying some protective gear for me bought POC in 2015.
uh-huh.
And so they're bringing all kinds of cool technology into the
Oh,
mountain
neat.
bike space for us here in 2022. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's going to be exciting.
Right on. What did you use those Sam Hill pads from 7 IDP whenever you were with them?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
just
did.
recently started using them, and they're really comfortable.
They are
But
super comfy.
yeah. Been pretty impressed with them, but I don't know. I feel like I ride so much. Like I'm like my average on Strava is per week is 6 days right now. So
Dang. Holy crap, bro.
yeah. So
That's
like
awesome.
my like I get hot spots on certain like places, and those it feels like when I first put them on, I wish I would have waited a little bit longer to do my 90-second review on them, because when I first put them on, it takes them a little bit, I think, until they like get warmed up,
Mhm.
that the like knee pad,
Stiff at
like
the
sometimes
beginning.
it's kind of like rubs on the some certain part of my knee. But I think if I was wearing them like a normal person, like, probably like a midweek ride and a weekend ride, you know what I mean? Like what most people do.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have any problems, but whenever you're wearing something like 5, 6, 7 days a week, you find out where the limitations are.
Right, exactly. That's a lot of time on the bike. That's awesome you can do that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I felt that too. It's like that D3 is it D3O, that material
I don't
that
think
that
I'm not sure
hardens?
if it's D3O that they're using, but it's something like that, something that kind of heats up and then it like is a
Yes.
little moldable or whatever.
Yeah. I ended up having to put mine on kinda sideways because the cup on the knee pad would scrape my knee when it was cold, pulling it
Mm-hmm.
up, but if I put it off to the side and pulled it up, it'd come up nicely. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you're saying. As soon as it warmed up, those things were just so comfortable, so
Yeah.
flexible.
Yeah. They definitely have really good protection. And I feel like I have this pretty jacked up knee injury right now from taking a spill in Phoenix. And I think if I was wearing those pads, I don't think I would have had the same injury.
Oh, dang.
Like, so it's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. I don't know. It's like those things like initially, the first time I ever had knee pads, they were the Cali Strikes. I really
Okay.
liked them a lot. And they were similar though. They would like, once they would warm up, then they were like super pliable. But like if you put them on a cold day, they were kind of rough. But
Right. It's like a
yeah. Just until you get, once you start pedaling, then they would be fine, but It's interesting trying a bunch of different products and then like in your mind being like, man, if I could like take this from this and this from this and kind of put them all together, I think I feel like I could make the best knee pad there was, but
Yeah.
I don't have those resources.
I know. What the company that's going to be coming out here, I mean, they've been out for a while, but they have this cool octagonal technology where it's based off of Poisson's ratio, which I had to totally read up. I'm like, what the heck
Yeah.
is
I think I
Poisson's
know who you're
ratio?
talking about now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you leaked enough there.
But it's cool, like the science behind that, like everything is in perpendicular lines. So if energy strikes that thing, all the energy goes out to the perpendicular lines, and they claim an 80% reduction of energy from impact to spread
Oh wow.
through the body. And luckily, I haven't tested that. I don't want to,
Yeah.
but that could be really cool. And then when you're pedaling, because everything's in an octagonal shape, you feel like you have air conditioning coming through your knee pads. Like this
Hmm.
summer, I just felt all the air. It was like, oh, this is so nice, so
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. It's stuff that protective gear. I feel like I always go through this period of time where it's like, you have an accident, you're like, man, I'm glad I wear that shit. And
Yeah,
then so long goes by that you don't have an accident that you start doubting why you're wearing it. And usually right around then is when something happens again and you're like,
yes,
oh yeah, that's right. I mean, I was definitely getting to the point recently where because I wear elbow and knee pads
okay.
just because there was a couple years ago I got into this accident, and that night I'm like laying in bed and both my knees and both my elbows are like wrapped up in bandages, and I'm
Oh,
laying there like a friggin' idiot thinking to myself like, why am I doing this? Like there's protective gear that would have stopped exactly what I'm like experiencing, and
dang.
I'm not wearing it because like I don't know, I'm like too cool for it or something, or I like,
You're
or
getting
like,
comfy. You're getting
yeah, or like,
comfy.
I think other part of it too is like, I'm 44, man. I grew up, nobody wore that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think that was like a maybe another reason why I never did. It was like, I've been riding bikes for 20 years. I don't need freaking pads, and so that night laying in bed, I was like, that's it. I'm going to reach out to Cali and see about getting some pads. And that's basically whenever I had started my, like, kind of using their stuff. And, ever since then, like just recently though, I've been thinking, man, I don't need elbow pads.
Oh
I'll
no.
keep wearing the knees, but I don't need the elbow pads,
Yeah.
And, then I took the spill and it's like,
Oh.
it just like totally reminded me like I can guarantee you the pads that I was wearing the Fox pads. I did a review on them recently. I took a pretty hard impact to like my shin part like right below my knee,
Ooh.
and they did 100% what they were supposed to. Who knows, I could have maybe shattered my leg or something, like
Ooh.
those
Ooh.
things work well at this like dispersing energy, right?
Right.
And whenever that hit, that's the point that my body and the ground is connected. And so my body was continuing to move. And I think that pad pulled down while I was rolling. And then so it exposed the top of my knee, which was then the next part that hit the ground. And
Ah.
um nonetheless, like what it did though for me was not like, oh, these things are crap, I still got hurt. You know what I mean? It was instead
Yeah.
it like reinforced like that could have been way worse. And my elbows were fine, like my other knee was fine. I was bouncing all over the ground. So like they worked, and at that point it's like, okay, keep wearing this stuff,
Yeah. It's funny when you feel that, like, I feel like maybe I don't need those. So I've been rocking without elbow pads because of the same feeling that you were talking about. Like, I think the knees for sure. But I mean, look at my elbows. They're like
Yeah.
all discolored and everything.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting into this weird place. I don't know if you feel this, but sometimes I'll wake up and I'll get superstitious all of a sudden. Like, man, I haven't crashed in a while.
Yeah.
Today might be the day. And I'm kind of like the mindset guy, So I'm like, why am I putting that stuff in my head?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have control over what I do out there. I don't have to go big. I don't have to go
Right.
medium. I could just have fun. But
Yeah, but you see, the thing is like it doesn't necessarily mean you're going big or you're doing anything whenever you wreck. Like that wreck that
It's true.
happened whenever I decided to start wearing pads. I was riding a trail I've ridden a million times. I was not like trying to PR. I wasn't like, I was actually just having a good time. It was a pretty big group ride. And I came onto this jump that I've hit a bunch of times, hit the jump, and where I landed, it was muddy and my front tire just washed.
Ooh.
And it was like, there was no way that I would have known that. The only,
Right.
I could have came over that and not even jumped it and just rolled over it and still washed out and hit the ground. You know
Right.
what I mean?
It's
Like
so true.
it's just like, it's just shitty luck, and I think that that's the thing where, like, I got a buddy, it's like, he's like bruised up his arm a bunch of times since I've known him, and I've only known him for like a year. And it's like, dude, how many times are you going to have that injury before you just like break down and start wearing elbow pads? Like,
Yeah, totally.
I don't
I
know.
know. I need to get my elbow pads back on now that we're talking about it, because anytime I wash out, it's usually my hip and my elbows,
Yeah, the back of the love handles, man. I can't tell you how many times I've scratched that part of my body up. So many, like even skiing, I've done it a bunch of times skiing, where I like eat shit. I'm sliding down the hill at like mock Jesus, and it just blows your jacket up, and it's just your skin, just like, like,
That's the worst, man.
oh yeah, yeah,
Oh God.
yeah. It
Yeah.
usually takes me to like learn things the hard way. I like never wore a helmet skiing either, and one time my buddy had his Garmin with him, and he's like, dude, we hit like 65, 70 miles an hour on this downhill run,
What?
right?
Holy
Yeah.
crap.
And it was like that same day where we were doing something else, and we were up in like more in like the powdery kind of stuff, and I hit something funky and it just threw me backwards. And it was the first time in my life that I've actually like quote unquote got my bell rung, like where
Ooh.
it literally sounded like somebody with like a big freaking sledgehammer was just like, dong,
Oh
like,
God.
and I was like, instantly, like, I was like kind of seeing stars, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I thought that like getting your bell rung thing was like just like a figment of speech,
Right, right.
but it was like literally like sounded like that. Like it's like resonating in my head.
Like in the cartoons, your head's just
Yeah,
shaking.
exactly, dude. Like I was sitting there thinking, okay, I should probably wear a helmet. Like, and I thought to myself, like, I wear a helmet riding bike, going like 20 miles an hour through the woods, but I'm going like 50, 60 miles an hour down these like runs at some point.
Dang.
And if I eat it, I'm sliding for like 100 yards before I stop.
Yeah,
You know what
that's
I mean?
a big
Like,
yard sale.
yeah, dude, you know what I mean? Or like, 50 yards or whatever. It's like there's trees everywhere. So it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what am I thinking? Like, why am I not wearing a helmet? So now I wear a helmet there too. So,
Yeah, no, that's smart. I mean, within that, the technology is so good. It seems like, comparative to before, people talk about how everything is so light and so protective, and you got the MIPS and everything. And
mhm.
even in the ski stuff now, don't they have like stuff with like headphones built inside and
Yeah,
ear
I have
warmers and all
those.
kinds of stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And the worst part about skiing is like mountain biking. I never drink and mountain bike, but I tell you what, man, when I go skiing, I got freaking Coors Light hidden all over the fucking mountain, dude. So, like, so I'm like drinking beer and freaking being stupid and not wearing helmets.
Well,
So,
apparently most of the accidents happen after lunch because
uh,
everyone comes in and they get cold again, but then they also purchase alcohol and they
yeah,
load up and they go back out and then they quickly get tired. Plus, whatever buzz they have going on is just a
yeah,
bad
yeah,
recipe.
yeah. That's why I don't ever like every once in a blue moon, somebody will talk me into like a mid ride beer. But I was telling somebody the other day, like, as far as biking goes, like, I don't drink and bike because one beer is enough. Like, it's not enough for me to like be like feel like I'm buzzed or whatever, but it's enough that my brain is like, hey, dude, you should do it. Whatever it is, it's like, yeah. Like if I'm thinking, should I go faster right here? My brain's like, yes. Like, should you hit that jump? Yes. Like anything stupid, my brain is like, yes. Like,
is it a loud voice or is it like a whisper? Like, yeah, Robert.
oh,
You
I
got
don't
this.
know how it speaks, but whatever it does, it's just like I'm like a zombie in the cartoons, where you're like you get hypnotized and you're like,
Right. You look over, you got like two like guys on your shoulder, like one dressed in white, one dressed in red. Like, hit it, Robert, hit it. No, don't do it. You're good. You're
no,
good.
no, one beer, and I have two red guys, dude. It's just no white guy at all.
It's a
They're
good
both like,
idea.
yeah,
Yeah, what
dude,
he said.
it's a great idea. This is really gonna be the moment you're gonna shine.
Hit the GoPro. We on? Let's go.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. So
Oh my
that's
God,
why I
that's
try not
funny.
to drink and ride. But,
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
yeah,
Two red dudes. That's
yeah. It's just horrible. But I do definitely enjoy the after ride beers. So that's been it's been fun over the last couple of weeks actually, because I wasn't drinking a lot before we went to Sedona. And then it's like we went to Sedona for the mountain bike festival, which you were there.
fun.
Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I had a blast there. It was too short for me. I got 3 trails in and then it was time to go home.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I wish I would have went a few days earlier and then, made some more time to like hang with the wife, do some stuff, maybe even do those pink Jeep tours.
Yeah.
And then when the festival hit, then like go all in. But I felt like I was trying to juggle too much.
Uh-huh.
I
You
don't
were there
know.
with the family too?
Yeah, I brought the wifey. She's an ultra trail runner.
Oh, cool.
And I brought her a stump jumper, and I thought in my mind was going to be like, we're going to ride, and then I'm going to ride, and then we're going to go to the festival. And man, it just, all of it is just like, I rode and then like, what? It's time to go to the festival. And then like, what? It's dinner time. And oh no.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. I mean, that gives you plenty of reason to go back,
Definitely.
and that's definitely the fun part is I've been going now. Shoot, it's been like 4 or 5 years at this point that I've been going. And I think before I went this year, like I had never done Hangover. And so I did Hangover on this ride. And I was thinking, man, like every time I come back, it's like I keep riding a lot of the same trails, but then I ride something new almost every time too. And whenever I ride something else, I'm like, well, I definitely want to, like, this place doesn't stop like impressing me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like there's so many trails there and it's such a good time. And I think that, if you just go for the fest and you get what you get in, then it's like plenty of reason to go back. And like I purposely try not to like make it a big trip where I may like burn the place out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally. I mean, if you book every single second, it's it could possibly not fun. You may miss something, and kind of being loose and lucid and kind of figuring out what people are doing and joining that like at the last second.
Yeah.
You might run into something amazing.
Yeah. I didn't get to spend much time at the fest this last time, which normally I spent a little more time at, and we were just riding so much, so it just worked out that way. I mean, I guess that's not a bad problem.
That's not. No, that's awesome.
But it's really
Yeah.
fun talking to everybody there,
Yeah, I'm kind of new to all of this stuff with the YouTube and the podcast, and with the Slack group. That was awesome
Mhm.
to go out to dinner. And when we got there, I was, I was a little intimidated. I didn't know. Obviously, you guys were all, we were all sitting there in that hamburger place, which was awesome.
Just to fill people in what he's talking about, a bunch of us creators have a Slack group that we talk about like frame rates and weird, boring YouTube shit to each other.
Thumbnails.
Yeah. Like, which thumbnail is going to do better and why the
Right.
algorithm sucks and all these kind of things. And because so many of us go to Sedona every year, somebody had the idea like, hey, let's all meet up for dinner. And this was Mark's first year and we were meeting up for dinner. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I literally walked in and the first person I saw was Colorado Kid. He's like, hey. And then, MTB Allen was there, and then BKXE was there, and Paul the Punter was there. And just like Bike Some was there, and
Yeah.
dude, Tony the
Josh was
Outsider,
there. Yeah,
Josh
yeah.
was there, Shane the Crashing Dad was
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
Writing My Best Life. I instantly was like, I'm just gonna sit here at my table with the wifey and just kind of eat my stuff and say, "What's up, everybody?" But
Yeah,
you know,
that's funny.
it was awesome. But at the same time, I was like, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to, bug anybody.
Yeah.
And I know the group's open and everything, and we're all like doing the same thing. But yeah, it was like I felt like I was in Oculus land. Like, look over there, there's Robert.
Yeah, yeah.
Holy crap, there's there's the Crashing Dad. Holy crap, Paul the
You're
Puncher. Holy crap.
little starstruck maybe.
Yeah, the wifey was like, kicking me into the table. She's like, just relax, just
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all just people. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing to remember.
Yeah,
And especially like as another creator, um, like we all have the same problems, regardless of like how big our channel is or how small our channel is. Like it's the same thing. Like you want to grow more, you want your videos to do well, you want to like influence people or help people, or you know what I mean? And so
yeah,
I think that the guys with the big channels, that they understand, they've been where we're at, and then they also, like I said, they still have the same problems. It's like how you come up with more content or whatever.
yeah,
But I think that the festival, like Sedona, or like going to like Sea Otter, is really good for the podcast, at least for me, because that's where I make a lot of connections to
Mm.
like get people on the show.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah. I was so like excited that you came up and introduced yourself and talked to me and was like, hey man, let's get on the podcast, let's talk. And I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, that's Biker Bar. Holy crap.
Yeah.
But that was cool. Yeah. And I could see that, making connections and networking and getting people on, it's cool. We have these platforms, Robert,
Yeah.
where we can have people come on these shows and kind of have their voice heard, their
Yeah.
stories
Yeah.
told. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's fun, and I think I like the talking to the companies, because there's so many companies in the bike industry that are actually pretty small. And like
Mhm.
people just make the assumption that they're this like big, at least I used to like assume that a lot of these places are like big, like for example, like Cali Protectives, or I would imagine 7IDP as well. It's probably a similar size company where there's probably like 15 people working there. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like if 20, I'd be surprised. You know what I mean? And it's like, they're selling equipment to like the world,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you just make this assumption that they're huge, like specialized or something like that. But there's so many of them that aren't, like the guys from Archer Components. It's like two guys going up
Wow.
against SRAM,
Wow.
like
Right.
like the guy that makes pedaling innovation pedals. It's like him and his wife, he's
Man.
got like, so it's just interesting to talk to people and like hear their stories. And then even other people, like I had the guy that started Box Components on, and he had a big background, but he still like started over with that company. And it's just interesting. It's really I like those stories.
Yeah, me too. And I love when you see them connect out there in the wild, like out on the trails. I had the owner of Afton Shoes on the show, on the segment, and it turns out that TJ is the one. He's the guy. But if you were to see an Afton shoe in a bike shop, it's this beautiful shoe for the flats. It's got all these components to it. It's like really
Right.
technical, but it looks very urban.
Yeah.
But getting to know him, I'm like, wow, dude, you're out on a limb. You're the only one. You have some people helping you out, but you're the one fighting against,
Yeah.
like, Adidas, the
Yeah.
510, all
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff. It's like you end up rooting for these guys, and then you end up seeing an Afton shoe out on the trail, out in the wild, and you're like, that is rad. That
Yeah.
is so rad. I had him on the podcast last week, and then I actually was out riding today, and a guy by the name of Alpha MTB had purchased some, and he showed me his shoes. He's like, after the podcast, I went out and I bought those,
Yeah.
and I did a couple laps with him today. It felt good. You know what I mean? It just feels
Yeah.
good.
It's interesting, man. It's definitely it's cool. It's definitely cool. Like me, I think I met the guy from Afton as well at Sea Otter, if I remember correctly. But they look like way more like regular shoe than a bike shoe, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They look urban, simple,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're highly technical. Once you start
Yeah.
looking into it, you're like, "Holy crap."
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but it's interesting, when you meet people out there and they're, you realize sometimes that you actually do have the more influence than what you think. You know what I mean? Where people
Mhm.
are like, "Oh, I bought that," or "I bought that," or um, I did a 90-second review on a Maxxis tire not too long ago, the Assegai, and I
Uh-huh.
was talking about the DHF and how there's this space in between the middle lugs and the side lugs that kind of like you feel like a little give on.
Okay.
And one of my buddies that has or works at a bike shop down in Arizona was like, dude, people keep coming in and talking about that freaking tire ever since your video came out. Like, he's like, and they
Wow.
keep saying, it's like, that's weird, man. Cause it's like, I don't really think about it that way, or like
Yeah.
there's that I'm like, I'm just some freaking overweight beer drinking mountain biker sitting in his garage making a video to like, I don't know who's going to watch it, and then next thing you know, people are like going out and purchasing things or what. It's just weird. It's weird when you
Yeah.
think about it.
It is the influence part, it's like people are always watching and you never know who's watching, and
Yeah.
it's tough because as a creator, for me, this is new. So when I'm out there, and I'm sure no matter how big or small people are, I'm sure they want to have everybody seen and heard, if they're watching your stuff or a fan
Mhm.
of the show or whatever. But it's hard to think about like your influence on things, and sometimes when the camera goes on, I have to make sure I try to pay attention to what I might be saying.
Yeah.
A lot of times I get dads who will hit me up and be like, "Hey man, my kiddo met you at such and such. It was so excited to meet you." And I'm like, "Wow, I had no idea,
Yeah.
I had no idea."
Yeah. People tell me all the time, dude, my kid's a big fan of your stuff. I was like, have you listened to the shit that comes out of my mouth, man? Are you sure you let your kid? I don't know if I would let my kids listen to me. I always feel bad. Oh man, I had this kid come up to me once, and I'll tell you what, you should definitely work on your signature because someday this is going to happen to you. This kid came up to me and he wanted me to sign his helmet, and I was like,
Holy crap.
what the hell am I going to write on his helmet? And those things are not easy to sign either. They're all like bending, like curves and
Right.
stuff all over them. I was like, this is going to look like I had an epileptic seizure and tried to put my name on there. Like,
Did he have the Sharpie on him and everything?
yeah, he did. He was like
Wow.
stoked to meet me, like super stoked to meet me. And with the kids, an adult knows how to like kind of hide their stokedness, but
Yes.
like a kid, they just have this like look at you like you're like Superman or something, and I would imagine, especially like meeting me in person, like I'm a big dude,
Yeah.
like 6'2", 250, like I'm a
Yeah.
big person. So
Yeah.
it's like one thing, to like I would imagine that's like probably slightly intimidating as well. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's been really, it's really cool every time I meet somebody that's a fan, and like, as your channel grows, you'll get it more and more. It's when I ride locally, like on a weekend, like today, where I'm riding, an area that a lot of people ride at, a handful of people through the day will recognize me, and that's neat. It's really neat. Like
It's
just
a
be
good
like,
feeling. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It feels like it's paying, like, obviously, what we're doing, it'd be great if the money took over for our jobs, but those are payments too, it feels like,
yeah,
when someone appreciates your work or recognizes you or says hi,
yeah,
and, it's awesome. In Sedona, there was a guy who started taking pictures, and then he came up and he said, "Hey, I don't wanna bother you," and it was just like, "Well, no, dude, who are you, and where do you ride, and where are you from, and thank you so
yeah,
much." Like, I felt like I was more wow, maybe I was as excited as he was,
Yeah.
And I was just stoked that somebody noticed me. I was like, woohoo, you mean me? Like, did you look around? It was in the hamburger place, Robert.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, MTV Allen's right behind me. Look at that table right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The dude was probably freaking out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
rad though. That's
it
super
was fun.
rad.
Yeah, it was good. It's good. How do you make sure that, when you're out and about, for people that don't come up and say hi, how do you make sure that you're acknowledging them? Are you just being you, just Robert, and out there riding, or
Yeah.
how
Yeah. Totally. I mean, like, I'm not like, I'm a pretty social person no matter what. So I've definitely met people and like chatted with them for a while, and maybe even like rode with them on the trail, and then later like mentioned, oh, you watch YouTube? And they're like, oh yeah, I know who you are, and they just like didn't mention it,
That's cool.
but yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely like a social person in the first place. So for me, I definitely don't act any different. I know whenever I think the first Sedona I went to, um, I was with the lady, and I remember some people asking her like, is he like this all the time? Like the way he is on his video? And they're like, yeah. She's like, yeah, that's who he is. Like, that's not like, it's not a skit or a person or a personality or like, you know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
a thing, which is
Yeah.
funny because when I started my channel, I actually like was trying not to be me. I was trying to be like this serious person that I thought I needed to be. And then whenever I started acting like myself, all of a sudden it was like, oh, you know what? I think people like that.
Yeah, and this is way more fun to be
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then a lot of people don't like that too. They're like, ah, screw that guy. All he does is cuss and drink beer and whatever. So
That's gotta be the hard part. As channels grow, then you get, like, the other half, right? The other part that's, like, dislike for whatever reason,
yeah.
and, I just,
I think that I go through stages, where I'm like sometimes like I'll have this stage where I'm trying to like clean up maybe and not drop so many F bombs and do this and that because I'm like, oh, if I do that, my channel's gonna grow more. But then I'll have this other stage where I'm like, fuck that, man. That's not who I am.
that's not who
And if
I
I want
am.
to be like, if I want to be freaking the Andrew Dice Clay of you, like mountain bike YouTube, then screw it. That's what I'll be. And so I'm always battling that. I don't know, it like for you if you have some kind of like internal battle like that or not, but for me, it's definitely I go back and forth, because um I definitely, when I first started my channel, had a lot of people say, I would watch your channel more if you didn't cuss so much.
Mhm.
I can't watch this around my kids because you're just like, fuck this and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so, and that resonates with me, because I don't want it to only be that as well. But so it's like, try to find that like happy medium, because, I don't know, man. Like you can hang out with your buddies and be like super locker room, but whenever you're like actually making a video that's going out to people, like, is that really the personality that you want everybody to know you as? Like, because maybe that's not really like that's not always like all of who you are. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Totally.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Because you wanna be yourself, but then you also are trying to grow this thing. But, I mean, if you look at the Joe Rogan podcast, for example, it's explicit. It's like, "Hey, man, if you wanna
yeah,
listen, listen. This is who I am. This is how I talk."
yeah, yeah,
And he's not overboard, but he's dropping it in there, and,
yeah,
the largest podcast known to man right now.
yeah,
So I think if you're comfortable being where you are, but if you're also uncomfortable and you want to clean, like, find a happy medium, then that's
yeah.
maybe the spot for you too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just wing it, just keep winging
Yeah.
it and see what happens, right?
Well, I'm digging it. I'm digging the
Yeah,
show, man. I
yeah, yeah.
love listening to I was like Paul the Punter. I listened to the Colorado Kid, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
the guy that you had on after Sedona. It was like right after, or was it right before Sedona? He was right before
What was he?
Sedona.
The guy with the packs?
It was industry guy. Was not the
Oh, the TRP one, I think.
TRP. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm digging it.
yeah, they're fun. They're fun. I really enjoy this show. I like talking to people. I like hearing about, where they're from or when it's a YouTube personality or whatever, or when it's a business, like kind of hear the background and understand like why things became the way that they were. Cause I'm not like a technical guy, I don't want to know like how, how many grams is that weigh? And, what's the percentage of what's the gear ratio between this? And, I don't really give a shit, but like, I
Yeah.
do like to kind of understand the bigger picture though. That's fun to hear.
Yeah.
How many episodes have you done on your podcast now?
So I have one tonight. Later on tonight, it'll be episode 55. So I'm a year into this.
Oh, wow. You're cranking them out, dude.
Yeah, it's man, it's so much fun.
Do you
It's
do one a week or you do more than one a week?
I do one a week, but I had a couple weeks in there when the wifey and the kids. My wife she was a school teacher and now she's opened up her own business. But a couple weeks within the year, she takes the kids traveling somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm by myself, I can crank out a couple episodes in that week.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly it's once a week. I try to do once a week, and I'm still looking for the sweet spot. Like when it comes to family and balancing and juggling and work and everything, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
Sunday nights might be the one. But man, so far I've tried Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and inevitably, family stuff is hard. It's a hard juggle. So this
Yeah.
Sunday might be the best.
I feel like Friday or Sunday are like the two good days personally. And for me, like what I would say is that I enjoy Sunday, and what I try not to do is I usually try not to book out too far in advance.
Yes.
That way I still have the option to like actually not have a show if something fun sounds like it's coming up.
Yeah.
Because my first year I like I would have people booked out like 2-3 months in advance. Like that's how far out I was booking. And some weekends you want to go camping all weekend, or some weekends you want to go skiing and you don't want to have to like rush to get home. And if you have people booked out that far, like then you'd have to cancel with somebody or reschedule, or you know what I mean? So it's just like this last year, I think I've done a way better job of not like letting it kind of get too far into like my personal space too. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. That's huge. How did you figure that part out? Because I feel like that's where I am right now, trying to plug it into the right spot.
Yeah. I think, for one part, having it at a certain time and a certain day, then it lets your family, like, they kind of expect that then too. Like the lady knows, like, hey, Sunday at 5 to 7, like Robert's going to be AFK, like, and,
Right.
and if there's something that she wants to do, then she just knows that she needs to like let me know like ahead of time, like a month out or something, like, hey, I wanted like to go out of town this weekend. Can you not do a show, or do you have anything booked yet? And kind of then it gives them, something that they can um kind of like plan around as well, and then the other thing too was like I used to be like super, it has to be Sunday at 5. And this year I definitely like had some people where they're like, oh, well, that doesn't work. And I'm like, that's cool. We'll do it whenever,
Gotcha.
and then that like will ultimately like open up that weekend for me then. So it'll be like, I think in a couple weeks I have Garmin on, and they wanted to
Oh, dang.
be on during the day. And I was like, you know what, that's cool. And then that weekend now I'm not going to do a show, and I'll be able to like watch the Sunday night football game, like,
Right. Yeah.
so that's kind of fun too. So I feel like, take it seriously, but also like remember that this is not the job that's paying your bills. That's the way I look at it right
That's a
now.
great way to look
You
at it.
know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I hear you say be flexible too,
Yeah.
when guests have certain things, certain hours that are more
Yeah.
important for them to bend
Yeah.
for that. And then the
Yeah.
family too.
And I try to heavily influence people to go Sunday night though, because to me it's like I know that there's a core group of people that like getting on Sundays and listening to the show, and I thank all of them, all those guys. There's 22 people watching right now, and Like, I appreciate that. I think it's super rad that people get on here and this is like how they spend their Sunday, like hanging out with us at the biker bar, drinking some beers and listen to us chat. And they're like having a good time chatting to their friends in the comments and stuff like that. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that, just as much for them is the reason that I try to keep it on Sunday as well, as the guests. But sometimes with the businesses, like the companies, like, you're gonna have to do what they want to do if you want them on the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like I always tell people too, like, look, dude, I'm not paying you to be on here. I'm not like Joe Rogan yet. So like until I'm like flying you out to California to freaking sit in my studio and record this, we'll do it whenever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I love what you said. I mean, I definitely noticed that too. The core folks who come to the show and watch, they're always having like a chat party. They're just they're saying what's up to each other in the chat, and I
Mhm.
always love like highlighting them and pulling them out, and trying to get that engagement with them. And when I pick a time slot, I'm always hoping that they show, and it's cool to see, and you see that group grow. I
Yeah.
mean, so far.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And it depends on the guest. Sometimes people have things going on, or sometimes people are more interested in, when you have the YouTubers on, they tend to have a bigger social following. So there'll be more people watching those live. But as far as like the downloads on the podcast go, it doesn't seem like it matters who the guest is. Like it's the same amount of people listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Before I do, I'm going to pop open a beer because I am on the Biker Bar podcast.
Oh
And
yeah,
here
right.
goes the sound right here. There we go. When it comes to people watching this on the YouTube or listening it in audio via Spotify or iTunes, do you see a discrepancy in numbers either which way, or is it kind of set the way it is the
Initially
same?
I had more views on YouTube, but now I'm getting to the point where it's more on the podcast.
Gotcha. That's
Yeah.
pretty
So
nice.
the thing that's interesting about the podcast is though that you don't know if those downloads are new people or reoccurring people, or you don't know who they are. Like
Right.
it's like with YouTube, you have statistics that you can look at and you can see like, you know, 35% of these people that watched are subscribed or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But or you're like, oh, this is you're seeing your subscriber count grow.
Yes.
But you don't have that on a podcast because your podcast is being downloaded on all kinds of different platforms. All you see is like metrics from wherever you're hosting your files at, right?
Right. And what
So,
trips me out about that too is the countries. Did you take a look
yeah,
at all the different countries? You're like, whoa, I can't believe
yeah,
somebody's listening to me in Somalia or
right.
whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
How is
kind of
that
crazy.
possible? Is there a mountain
Yeah,
biker out there?
right, right. Yeah. Yeah, that was one that got me whenever I first started YouTube because you could look at your metrics on there as well, and it'd be like somebody in Singapore. I'm like, why are they listening to me in Singapore? This doesn't even make any sense.
Are they
You
collecting
know,
information to call me about something later?
right, right. But you never know, man. I mean, I get messages from people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I used to live in Northern California, but I'm over here for work now." And it's like, "Oh wow,"
Oh, cool.
like, and now
Yeah.
they're, it's just like weird stuff like that. So,
Wow, that's cool.
but I was gonna say, like, the thing that's really interesting about the podcast is like I am noticing more and more people that when they're meeting me, knowing me from the podcast than knowing me from my regular channel, which is really interesting to me because there's such a larger number of people that are actually subscribed to the biker channel as compared to how many people are on the biker bar.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting, and that's where I started really thinking about, well, you don't know what that download is on the
True.
podcast. Like you don't know
Yeah.
if that's that person's first time listening was then, you
Mm.
know
Mhm.
where like you can definitely see the metrics on the YouTube channel of like how many people are subscribed that are listening or that are watching. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah, it does make you wonder. It's funny that you said that because my metrics are very similar. I have more views on the YouTube, like POV writing stuff, than I do on the podcast. But when I meet people out there on the trails, they'll say, I enjoy the podcast or I listen to the podcast.
yeah.
And very I mean, lesser of the people like, hey, I saw the video on this and that.
Yeah.
So, or
Yeah.
sometimes I'll have my goggles and my full face on, and I'll say something to a friend, and somebody will be like, I recognize that voice.
Yeah.
That's is
Yeah.
that, you know?
Most people recognize my voice from, and not me as a person whenever I'm on the trail, which is funny because I mean, I got this like huge tribal tattoo on my arm that's like screaming 1995, and like you would think like how many guys look like that, you know? And but yeah, even somebody that mentioned it today, it was like like I rolled by him and they were like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, living the dream. And he was like, I know that voice. And it was like, it was just funny. Like it always cracks me up that people definitely recognize the voice more than they recognize. But you know, when you're wearing gear, it's like everybody looks the same.
True,
You
true.
know?
Yeah, especially if you got the goggles and the full face on and everything, it's hard to tell. But some people do recognize the bike if it's off of the YouTube POV videos or
Yeah.
just or Instagram. Like I know that bike, especially if you have
Yeah.
something dramatic like a lime green fork or
Yeah.
something. You know, they can spot you.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking too, because I said something to my buddy because I was coming down this downhill section today and there was like these two people climbing, and like in the like 2.5, 3 seconds that it took me to pass this guy, he was like, biker. And I was like, how the fuck did that guy even recognize me? And my buddy was like, dude, it's got to be the bike. Cause I got like pink decals on my bike, you know, it's like super bright. I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. Or they were just like, took a stab at it. It's like, how many fat guys with a beard are out here
Oh
today?
shoot!
just give it a shot.
Jeez. Dude, speaking of trails, was it a clip on Insta? Was it in Phoenix or was it in Sedona? I think it was you and a squad of folks were tackling some trail, and was it you that went off into the bushes? It was like
Oh
really
yeah, that
steep
was
and
me.
off
I just,
camber.
yeah, I just rolled right down the hill. That's what I was talking about with my knee injury.
Oh
That's whenever I cut
shoot!
my knee up.
What was that? Was that in Phoenix or was that in Sedona?
It's in Phoenix. It's in the South Mountain area, is what they call the area, SOMO. And
Okay,
it's a feature there called the waterfall.
it looks
And
sketch.
yeah, you know, it's not that bad. Like, okay, it's pretty technical, but like it's not like the worst thing I've ever ridden, right?
Yeah.
And I rode it earlier this year in March and like had no problem with it. And whenever we were all standing there, I was on my tall boy this time, which only has 144 or 140 mils on the fork. And the last time I rode on my Bronson, which is like a 160 bike. And I told my buddy, I was like, hey, can you move out of the way? I just want to roll up to it and just kind of like size it up. And I rolled up to it. And then when I got to the top, I was like, ah, it looks fine. I just kept going. And you know, in your brain, how things happen and the timing of it is like way different timing than when you watch it on video. And
Yes.
as I went down that, like I in my mind felt like I stopped and like track standed for a second and was like figuring out which way I wanted to go. And then I let go of my brake. And when I let go of my brake, I realized that I wasn't going fast enough. And then my fork sunk and I kind of went over.
Oof.
And when I went over too, it was really fun. Like in my memory, like I remember like falling over and putting my arm out and I saw this rock and I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those crashes where you like do a push up on the ground. You know what I mean? Where
Right,
it's like you
right.
kind of like fall into that push up position, you stop yourself.
Yeah, like,
And
"I'm
so like
fine,
I
I'm
was,
fine."
yeah, yeah. And so I was seeing that rock coming at me and I was like, okay, cool, that's going to stop me. And I remember putting my hand out and pushing the rock. And then I just remember watching the rock like just snap in half
Ooh,
or like come out of the ground, like just like crumbled under my hand. And I was like,
jeez.
oh, we're in for a ride. You know,
Yeah, yikes.
like, but you watch the video and it doesn't look like any of that happened. It just looks like I rolled down, fell right over, you know, but
Yeah,
it's so funny how like your brain just like it doesn't see time the same way as like real life. You
yeah.
know?
It's crazy. And then on top of that, the GoPro effect, like, it takes things and makes it way more mellow looking than when you get there in real life and you're like,
Yeah.
"Holy crap, this is definitely not what I signed up for."
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Or you do it and you go wanna show the wifey, you're like, "Check this out." And the GoPro's got it super tamed. You're like, "How
Yeah.
in the world
Yeah.
is that a thing?" I don't
Yeah,
know
definitely.
why.
I've had that happen with people meeting up with me to ride too, where they're like, they've watched me do X trail, XYZ. Hey, let's go ride that. And then they get out there and they're like, oh, this is like a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. Or, you know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the way it goes with the GoPro. It really doesn't do anything justice at all,
$1 million idea, Robert. If we could invent glasses or goggles that gave us the same view as the GoPro shows, that would make things way more, build our confidence. Like you take it off, you see how steep it is, you put them on, and it's got the GoPro effect. Like, oh, that's not that bad.
Yeah, that's a
We'd
great
sell them like
idea.
hotcakes,
Oh, yeah, right. I thought you were going to go the other way, like that you could put them on. They actually recorded it the way it looks,
That would be good too.
Right, right. Yeah, I went up to when I was in Sedona. I went up to the White Lions the first time I've been up there because I
Ooh,
really wanted to see it in person. Like, I'm afraid of heights. Definitely afraid of heights. There's definitely no way in hell I was going to ride it.
oof.
I was not even contemplating riding it. I just wanted to get up there and like see it in person, you know?
What do you
And
think?
it was definitely like way sketchier than I thought it was going to be, even like in person, like and knowing that as a creator, like what the GoPro effect is, it still like surprised me.
Bro, when you look down at Chicken's Peak and you see the Jeeps all parked down there, you're like, I thought I was really high when I was standing on that thing. And
Yeah,
now they're way down there
yeah,
yelling at you, like, do it.
yeah, yeah.
You're like, no, no,
You,
no, no, do it.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy how well you can hear the people down there too. Like,
Yes.
it's like they're just having like conversation, and it's like their conversation voice is making its way up there. It's like really a trip to, like, I don't know, kind of weird. So somebody
Why?
asked here, let me throw up
Yeah.
this. It got my attention. They were asking how so many high level industry contacts, so just starting writing within the last year or so.
Yeah, Jason, that's a good question. I think it's just where I live, Southern California. They're like the YT folks, Steve Caballero out this way. I met Steve Caballero on a group ride, and
Hmm.
he's one of the guys who rides in YT for like an influencer side. And I got to meet the president through that. And
Hmm.
Tasco's also down here in San Diego, so got to know Nate Miller through just being local, being close by,
Hmm.
and they're all good dudes.
Yeah,
And so it's like you're talking to them and you're like, wait a minute, so you're the president of YT. Holy crap. Oh,
yeah,
you're the owner of Tasco. Holy crap.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
just partly of just my surroundings is what I'm thinking it is.
yeah.
Just a little bit of luck and a little bit of surroundings opportunity that way.
That's good. That's good. You said you've had 55 guests. Who are like your the ones that you look back and you're like, man, I really enjoyed that show.
Man, okay, so one that stands out, I obviously love the Colorado Kid. He was on the show. MT Balance on the show. Tony the Outsider. I did a veterans episode early
Uh-huh.
on, and we're talking about PTSD and just really trying to like dull the stigma of going to seek help. If you're
Hmm.
feeling anxious or depressed or whatever, like seek a professional. That's what they go to school for. If we have insurance, what the hell? Why not?
Yeah, yeah,
But a lot of male mountain bikers, a lot of males in general are like, I don't need that. Like, forget it. I don't need to. And at the time, I think it was, I don't know what the numbers are, but at the time in the veterans world, I think it was 22 veterans a day commit suicide.
yeah, yeah. That's the number.
It's big. So I thought, it's Veterans Day. I'm going to have some mountain bikers who are active duty and retired to jump on the show and just talk about some of what they're going through with PTSD. And if they seek counseling, like it's not that big of a deal. It really helped them out. So we had a great episode. I love talking to those guys, some of the stories and things that they've went through for our country. I thought that was amazing what they do and how they use the bike to really help them mentally.
Hmm.
And about 3 days later, we got an email from somebody who watched the show. It was an active duty veteran who said, I was literally going to reach for my gun and end it all. I heard the podcast and I reached for my cell phone and I have an appointment with a counselor like next week. And
Wow.
that was something that was like, holy crap, we did that. That
Yeah.
like the show did that. that's like worth
Yeah.
it all right there. Someone's life, it's
Yeah. That's amazing. That's
that
really
was
good, dude.
yeah, dude, that was one of my most memorable ones so far. It's just like the impact that we have is so good, it could be so good.
Yeah. 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 That's rad. That's super cool. I've gotten a handful of emails from people or messages and Instagram, but nobody told me I saved their life yet. So
Well, it wasn't me, but the guys
yeah,
that I had on, they
Mark's cooler
influenced.
than me. That's it. Unsubscribe from the biker bar. It's over.
No, no, no. The biker bar is the best place. Oh,
I
man.
had a guy on called Charlie Kelly who was essentially the guy who like started mountain bike racing in like
Oh, no
Marin, like
way.
way back in the day. Like he
Whoa.
had this race called the Repack that they did that like Gary Fisher and all these like guys that ended up being like key people in mountain bike industry were all like part of. And that episode to me was like my favorite by far.
Wow.
I wish I had like a better like microphone at the time, or you know what I mean? Like you can go back and look at your other stuff and you're like, man, I wish I did this or I wish I did that. And like I was not using StreamYard at that time either. I think I was using like Google Hangouts or something like that. And so but that conversation was just really cool. I love history and I really like I just thought it was really cool to like talk to somebody that's like a key figure in like this sport that becoming like what it is today, you know?
Yeah. It's cool because then it's documented too. People
Yeah.
can go back and get that piece of information whenever they want to, and it's
Right.
there. Like you've provided a place and time to capture
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
it's very cool that's there. I
Yeah.
had a
Who knows,
podcast.
man? We could be friggin' killing it in like 150 years.
You
Like
never
150 years
know.
from now, they'll be like, dude, the biker bar and the segment. If you guys don't watch that, oh my God, those guys are great. And you're like, yeah, they died like 100 years ago, but this is awesome.
That's my great 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 grandpa.
Right.
Oh man, I did have this one episode where there was a gentleman who ended up passing away. He became a friend of mine. He was a guest on the show, and he was 300 pounds, and mountain biking saved his life, brought him all the way back down to a healthy weight. And he was impacting other people that were moving into the mountain bike space for that because their gyms were closed down due to COVID,
Yeah.
and that was cool. And this guy was taking other guys out that were in his shoes, previously, and
Yeah.
was really impacting them. Unfortunately, the like gentleman passed away, but his voice is still there.
Yeah.
His mission is still there, and it's just like when he passed away, I saw the numbers on that particular episode. It was Ernie with Transcend MTB. I saw that episode just dial right up in views. I think
Oh, wow.
people wanted to hear his voice and people wanted to see
Yeah.
him, and it's cool that
Yeah.
it's been there. It's captured.
Huh. What happened to him?
He ended up passing away, I believe. I don't know the official word, but he was at work, and I think maybe it was a heart attack. I don't know for
Oh,
sure,
wow.
or I don't know if there was other things going
Yeah,
on,
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah, you don't wanna say the wrong thing. So,
yeah, I do know I felt strongly, for the family and for him,
yeah,
and man, it was a rough one,
that's
but
crazy. You
but
never know,
that
man. You never know when your time is, and that's
yeah.
the thing.
And to
Like,
have somebody on the show where you can look back and I'm so glad that he got his story out and it's documented
yeah,
somewhere,
that's rad.
It's so
Yeah,
cool because NBC's not calling, CBS, all these like ESPN, they're out doing their things, and you and I are here in our communities doing this and highlighting people, industry, writers, all that stuff.
right,
And we're kind of the ones for that. And it's cool
right.
to have that.
Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely is. What are you looking forward to?
Man, I just want to continue to have fun with this and grow it. Eventually, it'd be great if it became something where it takes over income. My main job is a great job, and I enjoy that as well. It pays the bills and takes care of the family. But there's something about this that's just it's got so many angles to it
Mhm.
that's satisfying.
What do you do for a day job?
Day job, I work for a big pharma company, and
Oh,
I'm in
yeah.
the acute respiratory space in biologic therapy.
Uh-huh.
And so this last year has been 2 years has been crazy
Yeah, I can
with
imagine.
everything going on. But yeah, so I enjoy that because I enjoy helping people. But
Yeah.
this is like really in line with your passion, riding a mountain bike,
Yeah.
meeting people, hitting trails, learning things, and then
Mhm.
doing what we do here.
So do you think you're gonna only do mountain bike, or do you think you're gonna do some of the other stuff, like what you were talking about initially? You didn't wanna, like, be in one space, or
Yeah, I mean, I don't know yet because I feel like a lot of these athletes, like for my wife as an ultra trail runner, I see what she goes through and I see what they do, and I see the mentality behind what it takes to become highly successful into that sport. And a lot of folks are very similar to kind of us as far as progression and continue to push. And there's just something that's behind you mentally that never makes you say, cool, man, I'm 3 minutes on that trail. That's great. It's either I need to hit this feature, I need to learn this feature, or I need to do something to make myself better in a certain way, or I need to have more stoke. There's always some kind of a progression behind
Mhm.
it for different athletes, and I'm wondering if opening it up to them would be able to create more stories. But for now, there's so many in our mountain bike community,
Mhm.
and I definitely love highlighting all of that.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I don't know if opening it up is a good thing or staying in the mountain bike world is where I need to be. I still don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sometimes I wonder about that, even for myself. I think that although the name of the show is Biker Bar, like there could be room to you could just expand on it. It's like, anybody can show up to a biker bar, right? But
True.
but I feel like I don't know, my passion's really in writing, and so we'll see. I mean, there's so many people to talk to and so many like companies to talk to, and by the time that I got to a point where I felt like I ran out, like even if I just started all over again with all the same people and companies, like there's new stories to happen or new products that came out or new, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um for now, for me, it's definitely gonna kind of stick this way, but um yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I would love to see it become more than what it is, but who knows? Even if it doesn't, like at the end of the day, I've had a lot of fun over the last like 4 years of doing these channels, and I've met so many people, and like at the very least, kind of like what you were talking about a minute ago, like I've documented the shit out of my life.
Yeah.
And if I was to get run over by a truck tomorrow, like my kids could show all these videos that I've made to my grandkids and be like, this is who your grandpa was, or like, they would still be able to get to know me. And I think that's rad,
That is
and
rad.
I think it's rad to like be out in the garage here drinking beers with your buddies and be like, "Oh, dude, we watch my videos all the time," like we'll be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, let's watch that one," It's like so that's
Yeah,
fun too.
there's so many angles to it that's satisfying that you're just like, man, this is the spot. This is where it is. Like you and I found this love for what we do here for
Yeah,
these podcasts. And it's cool that there's people that are listening to it. And at the end of the day, we don't know who we're impacting. Like you were saying earlier, with people that want to come up and say hi, or you may have changed someone's decision based on a review that you did on a bike tire. It's
yeah,
it's that kind of cool piece of information that you have to be able to get out there and to have people from industry, people like, the solo entrepreneur or the married couple entrepreneur that
yeah, yeah,
are put everything into this dream. And your podcast could really maybe change the trajectory of how they do.
yeah, yeah,
It's very cool.
yeah. It's interesting. What bike are you riding?
Right now I'm on
You
the
change gears on it.
YT. Yeah, I'm on the YT Jeff C Core 4.
Uh-huh.
I got that bike in July. And man, I was coming off of a specialized stump jumper and then went into the YT Core 4 Jeff C.
Hmm.
I
So
love that
the
bike.
stump jumper was your first mountain bike?
Yep.
So
I picked it up April 1st, right when the pandemic happened. And
uh-huh.
Robert, this is how new I was. When I was looking through the shop, I saw all these brand new bikes, and then there was used bikes. And this is before everything walked out of all the shops, right? So it was
Right,
like
right.
literally like a week before everything started happening.
Right.
When the salesman was like, this bike has 150 of travel, this bike has 170 of travel. At first I thought that's how far they were ridden because I was looking at some used bikes. I'm like,
Yeah.
150 miles, that's not that far. Why
Yeah.
would I get a 170 when I can get a 150? I mean, that's 20 miles difference. Totally didn't know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at this button makes the seat go up and down. That's kind of cool. Like, not
Yeah.
even knowing what I need it for.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I walked out with a Specialized stump jumper, mainly because of the price and the color,
Mm-hmm.
and the bike was great. And then when I got on the YT Core 4, I was like, this, wow, it's so quiet and it feels so tight, and it was comfortable day one, man.
So, is that more travel, the Jeff C then?
It's a 150 in the front, 150 in the back,
Uh-huh.
and it's
The
a
one was what?
150, 140, or
Oh,
140,
okay.
130. It was maybe it was
So it's
150,
similar
130.
similar travel bike then, basically.
Yeah, and I think the head tube angle might be a slightly different there on the YT,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that it pedals, like the thing climbs like a beast.
Yeah.
I've taken it on, for me, what I consider bigger jumps,
Mm-hmm.
and it's plenty. I never come off of it going, man, I wish I had more travel.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And I did, before I got the Jeff C, I was looking at the Capra, and I even took out the YT decoy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and man, I'm like in this weird place now where I feel like if this was surfing, the Jeff C would be my everyday. The decoy would be my longboard, for
Yeah.
cruising around. Or if I only had an hour before it got
Yeah.
dark, I just want to do a bunch of laps.
Yeah.
But then I guess, price and garage and everything, I don't want to spend too
Yeah.
much.
No, man, it's that N+1 thing though, dude. I think that having two bikes is really nice though,
Yeah.
because like, especially if you can have two bikes that are, pretty different in what they do. And I think having that ability to have something broken on one bike and be able to go get it fixed and not affect your riding is
Yes.
like key. I think I really enjoy like walking out into the garage and thinking about what ride I'm doing and like picking the right tool for it.
Yeah. What
And
are
go ahead.
do you have two analogs, or do you have one analog and an e-bike,
I
or?
don't have an e-bike. I have a Bronson, which is like a 160. I think it's 160 in the rear too. It might be 150 in the rear. Um, and then I have a Santa Cruz Tallboy, which is a 29er, so the Bronson's 27.5.
Okay.
And so then the Tallboy is a 29er, but it's a 140, 130 bike. So,
Gotcha.
or 130, no, 140, 120 in the rear.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
so that thing like is just like it pedals so good and it's like super fast, but it's a 29er, so it's not as like twitchy as a 27.5. And I don't
Mhm.
know, like they're really fun, to decide. And it's cool too when I get it wrong, and it's like, okay, well, I took the short travel bike and I probably should have been riding something with a little bit more, but I still made it and that feels cool. Or, I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. And like I said, though, I think the biggest thing is like being able to like break something and go get it fixed and not be without your bike
Oh,
is,
yeah.
you know,
Oh, dude.
key.
I mean, how many of us riders out there have been told, like, it'll take about 2 weeks for us to, you're like, I just will take it back with me because I can't go 2
Yeah.
weeks without riding my bike, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, it's a drag when that happens, and at this point, I have more than one wheel set, like for my Bronson. So a while back, I broke a rim. I was able to just put another set of wheels on it. And it's nice having that. I mean, obviously that's a cost thing that not everybody has the luxury of. Um, so I can understand why some people don't. But if you have the ability to have it, even if you had some older beater, like hardtail or something like that, like it still would get you out on the trail whenever your other bike's, getting fixed or you're waiting on some part. I mean,
Right.
nowadays it's like so many shortages everywhere. I've never been a person that had tires in my garage. And like right now I have 4 brand new tires hanging on the wall because
Yeah.
it's like if I rip a tire tomorrow, I might go to the shop and not find what I want.
Ooh,
You know?
yeah. That's scary. When you think about it, you try not to think about it when you're out on the trails because you're just trying to be in the moment and have fun. But you're right. If
Yeah.
something breaks, they might not be able to get that, whatever that thing is, for a while.
Yeah.
It's a little scary. And then,
Yeah.
two, your body, if your body breaks on something, it's like,
Yeah.
man, can the ER handle me? Can I come into that place? Is that going to be
Right.
okay? I mean, I don't want to
Yeah.
overload anything, but this is.
Yeah, no, I hear you there for sure. Let's knock on wood on that one.
Yeah, let's knock on wood. We're getting superstitious now, everybody.
Yeah, none of those,
Knocking on wood. Knocking on
none of
wood.
those experiences. But yeah, no, like recently, like I ripped a tire when we were in Sedona, and it sucks too because I was at the shop putting my bike together in Phoenix, and they had this tire there that I really like in the compound that I like and everything. And I was like, oh, I'll buy it on my way home, and then I'll have it back home. And I was not thinking like, what if something happens while I'm in Sedona? So I
Right.
ripped this tire in Sedona.
Oh, man.
I go to the shop, and like they had like the same tread pattern that I like, but they had it in just, I don't know if you're super familiar with Maxxis tires, but EXO is like their lightest like compound,
Casing.
like
Yeah.
it's like when you're trying to get as light of a tire as you want. And I usually run like on my back tire like a downhill casing, or at least EXO plus, which is like 2 layers of the thread pattern or whatever, so it makes it 120 TPI instead of 60.
Okay.
And so it was like, here I am spending $90 on a tire that I know is going to get like ruined in no time.
Especially Sedona, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And at first I was like, this is bullshit, man. How do they only have AXO tires in Sedona? Like, what the hell kind of bike shop buys those? And then my buddy was like, no, dude, that's just all that's left. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense.
My brain was going somewhere else, that they stock those because they know that you'll be back,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this is bullshit, man. This is garbage. Then like when my buddy said that, I was like, man, I'm such like a cynical asshole. I didn't even think about like all the good ones just got bought,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
100% went the same way as you, man. So
I know. I was like, they're thinking that's a good
right?
business model, It's but you're right. Yeah, that makes sense. People out in that area are gonna buy the thicker walls and everything on
Yeah.
their bike tires so that they can last. I mean, it's like riding on shark teeth out there in some of those areas.
Yeah, and they
Holy
got
cow.
cactuses and all kinds of shit. Like everything on the
Dude.
trail wants to fucking kill you, right?
Dude,
You
I
know,
fell in a cactus when I was there.
oh no.
I got a prickly pear right in the left cheek, man, right in the left butt cheek.
Oh no.
It was the worst fall. And it was one of those dumb ones, Robert. Like, we had done Slim Shady, Templeton, Easy Breezy, back out. And we were like literally going back to the hotel, and I was climbing, I was being dumb. I was like going back and forth with the front tire, like, oh no, I think I'm gonna fall. And I literally washed out doing that. And I fell right into a prickly pear. There was no other prickly pear anywhere close by.
Oh
I fell right in there. And it was literally shorts down on the side of the trail, trying to pick out as many as possible. But there were hundreds of these little ones
Yeah.
that I couldn't see. And my buddy was like, he helped me with some of the big ones. Then he got like 15 feet away from me. He's like, all right, bro, I'm just going to stand over here.
Yeah.
Some of them were like way back there.
Right.
And everybody that went by, there I am.
Yeah.
Shorts
Was
down.
there like an Instagram picture of that or something?
I haven't posted one yet, but I'm going to, because
I saw somebody post something. So it must, you're not the only one, put it that way.
No, but everybody that cruised by, they all said the same thing. They were all like, welcome to Arizona. Welcome to Arizona. And then when somebody would come by, I'm like, I know what you're going to say. And then they'd say, welcome to Arizona. Like,
yeah, right.
Hi, that's awesome.
Yeah, my lady like stepped on some cactus when we were riding out there, and she like they went like right through the side of her shoe into her foot. Like,
oh man,
those things are like no joke, man. They're definitely yeah.
Oh man, it's the worst. So pants down on the side of the trail, partially my underwear down, just trying to get to them all. And people that would cruise by, I try to put my shorts back up, and I re-stick myself because everything's in my shorts. All the spikes. Eventually, I kind of got used to all the guys cruising by, and I'm like, yeah, welcome to Arizona. Yeah. That's very cool, very funny.
Right.
And then the only person that stopped was a family, and the mom she was so sweet. She's like, I have a pair of tweezers. Would you like them? And so, I embarrassingly like accepted the tweezers, and they were these like plastic kind where when you push them shut, there's like two bulbs that have to like meet, but they're
Yeah.
plastic. So I can't get the dang things to meet up to grab the spikes.
Oh no.
So I ended up having to ride out and sit down and push the spikes even more just so I can get out of there. But we're going back to the village of Oak Creek, if you guys know Sedona area. And right about the Circle K part, I see this truck comes up beside me and they slow down. The lady rolls down her window. She's like, "Did you get them all out?"
Oh no, it's
I'm
her.
like, "Oh, it's her." I'm like, "Please keep going, keep
Oh
going." And
god.
then she left with a "Welcome to Arizona."
Oh,
Oh
that's so
man.
embarrassing.
I never
Yeah.
had. Have you ever had cactus before?
No, like stuck in me?
Dude, yeah, that's
No, I
no.
have I
Oh,
can't think. I probably I feel like I have, but like not on like that kind of level, like a just I got zapped in the side of the leg or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but nothing where it was like just ridiculous. But
dude, hundreds
yeah.
of them, man. Oof.
So then you went back to the hotel and like the lady like had to like freaking
Yeah,
do operation on you.
that was embarrassing. Yeah, so she was like trying to get him out, and then we had the cell phone light on there, trying to because she couldn't see him.
Oh my
But I learned
god.
something cool. If anybody gets cactus, and you got the big ones; those are easy to pull out. But it's the little tiny ones that you can't see, but you can feel
Mhm.
them.
Right.
If you take the Elmer's glue that you had in school when you were a kid, the white Elmer's glue.
Yeah, yeah.
If you go to the store and buy that and you just like spread that all over the place where it's at, let it dry, and then once it's dry, you peel it off. And when you peel it off,
Ah.
it's like it's already molded around all the needles, and you peel it off, all of it comes out.
Well, there you go.
But I didn't know that at first. So my wife spent about an hour picking needles out of my left cheek.
Yeah.
And then I finally learned about the Elmer's glue and I got the rest of it out.
I feel like I have a really hairy ass, so that would suck.
That'd be painful, man.
I feel like it's not a win situation for me no matter what, man.
You just need to get like the wax stuff then and put
Yeah,
on. I
right?
just did a
I think
quick
that's when I
tear.
just go all in, just like, yeah, let's get the hot wax and I'll go get me a freaking Brazilian done real quick and just
Oh
oh
man.
man. Yeah.
Uh,
Those
welcome
are
to
definitely those
Arizona.
moments where you're like, God, you're like fortunate that you were there with your wife. Like, what if you were on a guy's
Yeah,
trip, right? And that's
dude.
what happens. It's like,
No,
dude,
no. Friendships
like,
getting closer or friendships getting further.
right? Like, I don't know if I could be like, dude, can you pull these out of my ass?
Yeah.
Like, you know?
And some of them are like literally like where you cannot see. You're like, I feel
Right,
them back there, but I cannot see them to get them
right,
out.
right.
And that's the point where my friend was like, all right, bro. Hey, I'm gonna
Yeah.
just go up the trailhead a little bit and tell you if people are coming. I'm looking out for you, bro.
Yeah, dude, I'm not spreading your butt cheeks apart, bro.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
shout
yeah,
out to my friend Joey. He's a trooper for helping me.
right?
But man.
Yeah, good
Oh,
lookout, dude.
going back to Jason's question, actually, the guy that I ride with a lot, Joey Yates, he's on Instagram as Uncaged MTB. He
Mhm,
knows all these guys, like the president of YT and the Tasco guy, and that's a lot of it is meeting people through my buddy. So
mhm.
it's really just that my buddy
Yeah.
Joey just happened to know that whole type of group in the industry, and
Oh, that's
lucky
rad.
enough to introduce me to those folks. So yeah, I just
Yeah,
I needed to say that.
yeah, yeah, no, I had something similar whenever I met, the guy Richard that owns the sticker company.
Oh, yeah.
He obviously knows a lot of people in the industry because he's, talking to them about doing decals or whatever, and so he had helped introduce me to a lot of people. Um, Other than that, though, it's definitely been, um, the events is where I've really, like, been able to network the most, and I've noticed that, um, some companies are like, "Yeah, whatever, you're just some other dude that just has a podcast. Everybody has a podcast," you know? And,
Yeah.
um, after a couple of years of seeing them, at a couple events, and then they'll be like, "All right, well, I guess this guy's, like, actually legit." and then they start breaking down. So I'm super excited about that Garmin one because that'll be like the biggest company that I've had. And that's like, I don't know, it's just I'm excited to talk to them about the products because
Yeah.
I'm already like fully in bed with them. So I've been using Garmin stuff since like 2006, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, they told me too. They're like, hey, we could send you a bike computer or something like that. And I was like, I
Dang.
literally bought a new computer like 2 days before they like answered me on the podcast thing. I was
Oh
like,
man.
well,
Take a backup one.
right. Yeah. My battery was like, I've been working on doing this. I want to do 10,000 feet in one ride. So,
Oh.
like a 10K ride. So I've
Oh.
been working on like getting my elevation up, and the last ride that we did was like 35 miles and 6,500 feet of
Good
climbing.
grief.
Yeah, and my Garmin died like before the last descent. So
Oh,
like it just irritated the shit out of me that I had to like start my Strava on my phone, and then it was like not all one ride.
right.
And it's
Right.
just because the
Ah, dang.
battery is like toast. I've had it for so long. So, but
With the new
yeah,
technology, it should be, good now. The ones that you just got, they should.
yeah. No, it should be. And then the one that I had, it worked great. But I mean, you can only like charge and recharge and uncharge something so many times until it's like it's just no good. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah.
So like,
iPhone's a perfect example of that for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the other one I've had. Oh, I've had it for a couple of years now at this point. So, I mean, I definitely got my money out of it, but then it was fine. It's fine if you're doing a 3 hour or 4 hour ride or 5 hour. But I mean, we were out on the trail for over 6 hours that day.
Jeez.
It's like that thing it gave up. So now I have
That
a backup one in case I smash a screen or something like that.
Yeah. That's gonna be exciting to have them on. I jumped on a friend's bike at Sky Park, one of the local bike parks we have around us, and, every time I jumped on his bike, I heard it go "Beep-doop," and I'd
Yeah.
land, "Beep-doop," and I'm like got to the bottom, I'm like, "Man, what is that sound?" He's like, "Oh, it's measuring your airtime."
Yeah.
I had no clue it does stuff like that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I just the new one that I have has that on it, and I don't know if I had it turned off on the other old one or it just didn't have that feature, but I don't know if I like it or not because it's like I don't know, it's just something distracting to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if I could turn off the alerts and then I could just look at the metric later. I bet you I could do that.
Right, 'cause in my GoPro, in my mind, it sounded like this: "Pull up, beep-doop, land, beep-doop," and then in the
Yeah.
GoPro, it was like, "Beep-doop, beep-doop." I was like, "What? No, come on.
Right.
Beep-doop,
Right.
beep-doop." Like, I was
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
air longer than that. Stop.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really looked at I don't look at the metrics as much anymore on there. Like sometimes I'll go and look, but since I started using Strava, which now has been, how I don't know how many years, I don't look at the data on the ride as much. But I do still like having the Garmin, like a whole Garmin kind of life cycle infrastructure. I don't know what you want to call it. Because I have
Uh-huh.
like a Garmin scale. I have the Garmin watch. So if I'm like running or walking or hiking, it's going to catch that. Or I got the Garmin for the bike. And so like whenever you're looking at like your stats of what you're doing, it's capturing everything. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, that is cool.
So
So I wear a MyZone as a heart rate monitor, and it
mhm.
measures my heart rate, it measures, like, calorie burn, and it's, like, on my chest, but, man, does the Garmin do that, like, through the watch?
You can use the watch one. I still wear a chest strap. Because whenever I don't know about the new one, but whenever I had the Phoenix 3 watch and also like the one that I have on right now. I don't know what this one's called. It's like just the one that looks
Oh, yeah.
like a step counter
Looks
almost,
like
but
a
this one has a heart
Fitbit.
rate. No, but
Like
it's by Garmin. It's like
oh,
Vivo Fit or something like that. I forget what they call it. But anyways, that has heart rate on it as well. And I just felt like it wasn't as accurate as the chest strap. And for me, I do like looking at that metric to see like oh, I was hammering it up that climb, and I can see like where my heart rate is like really going up at, you
Yeah.
know, and then I can look at over time and be like, oh, like last year when I was doing these climbs, like I would be in like zone 5 or whatever, you know, it's like now I'm
Yeah,
doing it in zone 3 and I'm faster. So
that's
that's kind of cool to see. So
that does feel cool. And then too, when you want to be in like a middle zone, when they say like their fat burning zones in here and like
yeah,
anaerobics way up here, it's fun to be able to like, "All right, I need to dial this down. I need, or you know, it's just good information
yeah,
for you to change what you're doing.
yeah,
I got something controversial I wanted to bring up on the biker bar with regards to the heart rate and calorie
yeah, go for
burns
it.
and things like that. So I recently called the president of YT and I said, "Hey, can my buddy and I take out 2 YT decoys? And we already have the YT Jeffsies, and we're going to take them to Vail Lake, which is out here in Temecula, California. We're going to set a course. We're going to ride 1 hour on this course that was preset. We're going to turn on the heart rate monitor and the Strava, and wherever 60 minutes ends up, wherever we are on this course, we're going to shut it down, capture all that information, come in, rest for an hour, hydrate, you know, like just get our bodies back up to where they need to be, take the e-bike out for the second 60 minutes, set out for the same course. Wherever 60 minutes ends, we'll capture all that data and we'll come
Hmm.
back." So I made a video out of this. And my buddy and I were like, let's go hard on the analog bike because in our minds we know that the e-bike is going to, you know, we know that the analog bike is going to crush the e-bike. Let's just go hard on both bikes, but let's go hard on the analog bike too, because we need to make sure that this is going to be a fair comparison. Let's exert ourselves, basically.
Right.
So when we pulled in and we looked at it, we did we did well, the e-bike basically we went twice as far when we looked at
Right.
the data. We knew that was going to happen. The
Right.
elevation change was twice as much. We knew that's going to happen because we're going twice as far.
Right.
Um, what I didn't think was going to happen was my heart rate was higher on the e-bike than it was on the analog bike, and I didn't know this was going to happen. The calories burned were higher on the e-bike versus the analog bike.
Interesting.
It was crazy. When you look at the MyZone data for the heart rate on the analog bike, it was like spike down, like the whole
Yeah.
time. And then there was like a period of rest where there was inactivity at the top of a run just because I
Hmm.
needed to catch my breath before hitting the DH.
Right.
On the e-bike, it was like spike, medium, level, all the way through, and then hardly any rest time because when I got to the top, I was ready to just drop in. I wasn't totally burnt
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah. I can
so
totally
crazy.
under 100%. Like that doesn't surprise me because I don't know. I've only like legitimately used a e-bike on a trail one time, but that entire time, because you're trying to keep your cadence really high to keep the motor as engaged as you can.
Mhm.
So you're just spinning like super fast, even
Yeah.
though it's not like feeling like a grinder, like kind of thing. Like you're definitely like spinning a lot, you know?
Yeah. I mean, even too talking to that point when you're constantly in motion, like you're saying. And if I were to push down on the pedal just like I did on the analog bike, you know, I pushed down the same amount of force where I felt like I need to get up this hill. I pushed down. It's just that every pedal was worth twice as much.
Right.
And what I realized with that formula is that if you have an e-bike and you almost have to go twice as far as you normally would with an analog bike to get a better workout. And it wasn't like leaps and bounds better. It was like I burned 900 calories on the analog bike in 60 minutes. I burned 1100 on the e-bike in 60 minutes. So it was like a
Hmm.
200 calorie difference, but I
Yeah.
had to go twice as far to do it,
Right.
but in the same amount of time.
Right. It's the same amount of time though. So
Yeah.
that's
So
interesting though. So I mean,
yeah.
that's like that's a whole extra beer, dude.
Dude,
So
that was crazy when I brought that. I swore when I did the side by side comparison, I was like, this is gonna end it. The analog bike is gonna just blow the e-bike out of the water when it comes to effort, heart rate, calorie count, all that
yeah.
stuff. Mileage, I know,
Yeah. Yeah.
elevation change. I'll give that to the e-bike. But when I came down, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I did not expect this.
That's really interesting though. That's cool that you did that. I would love to have an e-bike, honestly. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I it's hard for me to justify that cost for
Hmm.
something that I know I'm not going to use all the time. Like for me, I know that would be like my once a week bike, or like, you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't be my, like, I still like the struggle. I still like the feeling of accomplishment from, like, I got here on my own power. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And I know that, like, when I rode that one, I had a lot of fun, but it was different. It was a different kind of riding. The way that I would brake on things, the way that I would corner, the way that I could throw it around, like, it was still fun, yes. And it, like, made trails that I would normally only go down fun to go up.
Yeah,
Like, that was really cool. But at
yeah,
the end of the day, I know if I bought one, excuse me, it wouldn't be the end of my like riding analog bikes. So it's
yeah.
like, to spend as much or more than I do on my analog bikes on an e-bike that I know I'm going to use like 20% of the time is that's a tough sell for me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And what if it went the other way? All of a sudden, you find yourself on the e-bike more, and the analog bike's collecting dust. You'd be like, "Oh, goosey Louise."
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? Maybe. I have a friend that did that. Like, he got an e-bike, and once he got one, he was like, he sold all his analog bikes. He's like, I don't want to ride them anymore. I don't even
Man.
care.
Well, and it's tough too because if your squad, if your crew is analog and you show up on an e-bike and
Yeah.
you do the same amount of miles as them, you're not getting the same workout. You
Yeah, you're
like
not having
literally have to go
fun.
double.
Yeah,
And
and
if you go,
anytime I've sorry, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, I was gonna say, and if you go double, you're not riding with them. You
Right.
miss out.
And that's the thing I've noticed, like, anybody that's ever ridden with an e-bike with us, I mean, even with the guys that are fast, like the guy on the e-bike's just dusting the shit out of him. So what's he doing? Like, sitting at the top of the hill for like 10 minutes waiting for somebody to show up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
it's definitely like what you said. I mean, once you buy an e-bike, everybody in your crew has to buy one or you're not riding with them.
Yeah, it's tough.
So
It's tough. Or if they're fast enough to do a quick lap in, like, hey man, go now and then come back around. We should be getting to the top. And then we get all
yeah,
downhill together. But it
yeah,
never ends up perfect like that.
right. Yeah,
Usually
yeah,
texting like, hey, bro, where are you? I'm on
right,
this ridge. How'd you get way over there? What the hell?
right, right. Yeah. So you've been riding now for almost 2 years. What do you think were some of your biggest struggles over that time?
Man, I feel like there's just so much information that I want to do. I think the biggest thing for me is just making sure that I'm getting fundamentals. It's weird. Like I'll ride and somebody will follow me and they'll be like, I can't believe you've only been like, a year and a half into this. And then
Hmm.
the very next trail, I'll wash out on a corner um, because of XYZ reason. My fundamentals aren't there. So it's like
Hmm.
very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of writing. Like you might catch me on a day where it's like, look at this guy, and then you'll catch me on a day like, yeah, okay, that's perfect for a year and a half. Good job.
Yeah, yeah,
So it doesn't add up yet. I'm still
yeah,
trying to find my way.
yeah. I mean, some people just pick it up well too. Did you ride bikes much when you were a kid, or not really? Or
No, I mean I had a bike as a kid. I did try mountain biking in high school. I went to Mammoth Mountain with a bunch of buddies who just got their mountain bikes, and I borrowed a buddy's mountain bike and I crashed. And I'm like,
hmm,
that's not the sport for me because if I get hurt, I don't get to do my skateboard. Or back then it was also
hmm.
martial arts, and I'm like, I don't know. I ended up buying that bike because I went off the side of the trail and I ended up bending the guy's fork and tacoing his tire and
No,
had to go to the ER and get stitches in my arm. I'm like that thing freaks me out.
right.
Um, and then so I knew how to ride a bike, but I never really mountain biked.
Yeah,
It was all skateboarding.
right, right.
But yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I wish that I had a BMX background. Like I know you have a BMX background
Uh-huh.
or moto, because a lot of the folks that I see on the trail that are just tearing it up, when you talk to them, it's like, oh yeah, I used to BMX or oh, I used to moto. And
Hmm.
I get jealous, like, the moto guys are like, I'd be hitting 100-foot gaps at, like, 80 miles an hour. So now when you pull up to a gap, it's, like, 30 feet at 25 miles an hour. They're like, "Oh, it's like nothing." You
Yeah,
know?
right.
And I'm
Yeah, I
freaking
never
out.
did that. Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
I definitely, like, am trying to learn a little bit of jumping, but I don't know how much I actually wanna learn because, like, there's this part of me that's like, just like thinks about like Friday fails all day long, you know? And
Oh
it's like
man.
the level, the amount of hurt that you can get when you're starting to get into like that kind of shit, I feel like is like exponentially higher than just the amount of hurt that I could get like riding normal trail, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know if I want to get better at that because I don't know if because I know what that is. Then it's like continual progression, right?
Yes.
Like 1 3-foot gap turns into a 5-foot gap, turns into a 10-foot gap, turns into a
Yes.
30-foot gap. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And it's like
Yeah.
next thing you know, like you fuck up that 30-foot gap and now you're like in a wheelchair. You know what
Right.
I mean? So it's like,
Right.
do I want to do that? Like, but I don't know. I mean, I could freaking slip on the soap in the shower and be in a wheelchair too.
That's
You know what
true.
I mean?
I
So it's
know.
like,
That
it's tough. It's really
that's
tough.
the thing, you know. So I learned about, and this may not work for everybody, but for me it works. I learned about this thing called the reticular activating system. And it's literally like a bundle of nerves in the back of the brain that kind of filters a bunch of things that are coming at you, like my voice right now, the desk, the chair. You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, the keyboard, whatever, it
Hmm.
filters out everything and only allows things in that are important to you at this moment. So if you're listening to the show, you're hearing our voices, right? You're watching us on the
Hmm.
screen. And so those Friday fails scare the hell out of me because I don't want to let that stuff in.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you see this stuff. But so in 2016, my wife and I were pregnant with 2 twin baby boys,
Hmm.
and we lost them.
Oh
And
no, I'm sorry.
it oh man, it was like the roughest time for us both. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I was doing these motivational things for my buddy Drew, and I needed to turn some of that stuff internally to me. And I found this thing on YouTube about the reticular activation system, and I started listening to it, paying attention to it. And what I do in work, I'm on the sales side, and I work for a big pharma company. And I've always been the guy that was kind of average, maybe top 20% in sales.
Hmm.
But after losing the boys, you know, I'm thinking, okay, this is the year I need to like collect myself and really do well. I need to change things because
Hmm.
somehow these things are happening. um, I paid attention to that reticular activation system thing. And that very next year, I was the top rep in the entire nation.
Hmm.
And I feel like now when it comes to the mountain bike that I'm on the bike, I try to continuously put those things in my mind to grow and to progress and things like that. But stuff like the Friday fails, man, I try not to get that stuff in my head because when you watch him, you know, as you know, you can see where it goes wrong. You're like,
Yeah.
that's exactly where it went wrong, and then I don't want
Yeah.
that in there
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I can maybe even do that on purpose in a weird
Right.
way,
Right.
you know? That freaks me out.
Yeah. No, I totally hear you. That's good stuff, man. I need to work on that because I don't know. I had a crash a few years back now at this point, and it really just changed my perspective on writing a lot. That it for the best way to say it is just like it put the fear in me, you
Yeah.
know. And once the fear is there, it's hard to get it gone. And
What happened?
I it was nothing spectacular, but I had my fork fail, and when my fork failed, it basically dropped the headset to the front tire and was
Mm.
insta brake. And
Ooh.
I went over the bars not super fast, but you know, my hand was out in the right spot and you know, separated my shoulder. And because of that, I couldn't ride my bike for like 6 months. And my bike is like my therapist. And
Yeah,
that was a really rough 6 months for me because um I didn't realize how much I used that to like keep my head straight, you know.
yeah,
And I for a long time, like I was just like, I never want to be in that spot again.
yeah,
So I actually don't care about going faster. I don't care about getting a PR. I don't care about getting better. I just want to be able to get on my bike and ride it. And if
yeah,
this is like the momentum, this is the speed that I get to go for the rest of my life, I would choose that instead of choose another option where like I lose 6 months of riding, you know?
yeah,
And it took
yeah,
me till probably, I don't know, like last year. So it was probably like let's just call it 5 years of like being like super cautious rider to start getting back to the point where I'm like willing to take chances again. But it's still in the back of my head. Like before that crash, I always was like, it's me that's deciding, you know, how far I push it. And if I get hurt, it's because I've decided to push it too far. And I never thought at any point that my equipment could fail and cause me to have an accident. Like the only thing that was in my head was I make a bad decision. So as long as I keep my decision making like in line with my skill set, I'm not going to get hurt bad, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, your handlebar, I mean, we don't need to get into it, but I mean, there's
No.
so many things that could happen
Yeah.
that, you know, you'd be fucked. And
Yeah.
and ever since that, I think it's still there in the back of my mind, but it's definitely like enough time has gone by where I'm like, I'm pushing harder again. And I'm definitely like riding at the best level of my life right now, which is good
Yeah.
too. But yeah, just, you know, it makes you wonder though, is like the next big one coming or, you know?
I know. You wake up for a ride, you're like, "Ooh, could it be today?"
Yeah.
It's hard, man, because you always want to try to control the things you can control. And
Yeah.
outside of that, it's like out of our control, like equipment
Yeah.
failure, or you land and your bars break if they're carbon, whatever the case is,
Yeah.
like, hey, I would have stuck that if the equipment
Yeah.
didn't fail, but I can't control that. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
could have, like you said earlier, I could slip in the shower,
Right.
and be like, dude, I'm off the bike. Like, what happened?
Right.
Freaking damn soap in the shower.
Right. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you never know. So it's like,
I
I think
know.
that yeah, it's fun getting to a point, you know, and pushing hard though. And I think that it's worth the risk, at least it is right now, you know. So
Yeah, like
who
to a
knows?
point where you feel good, you're like, I feel good
Yeah.
about that. I'm happy. I don't need
Yeah.
any more. I don't need a bigger bite. That was like
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. 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 But you
It's so
know,
mental. It's so
the
mental.
competitive part of you always wants to like maybe push a little bit more or get
Yes.
a little bit faster.
Those little red devils on your shoulder.
Yeah,
Robert, you
those things.
got this.
You got it. You're all over it. So, dude, we're hitting 2 hours right now, and
Holy cow.
yeah, yeah, it goes by quick, right?
That's
Uh,
fast.
I like to ask people before they go what YouTube channels they like to watch, whether it's mountain biking or basket weaving or whatever it is. Just I think it's interesting to hear what channels people are into, and I would make the assumption that since you have a channel, you watch YouTube. So
Yes, yeah, no, man, there's so many. There's obviously I'm still in the honeymoon phase when it comes to mountain biking, and I hope that
uh-huh.
never ends. So I'm constantly looking at mountain bike YouTube videos. I really have this special place in my heart for, obviously you have the big ones that are very popular, and they're succeeding and they're growing, and I love watching them. But I also find it's almost like music for me, where I find somebody who's like sub 200, sub 300, sub
Yeah,
400, and you see them grow, and
yeah,
you're like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And you could say I kind of saw them, when
yeah.
there's one guy that I'm watching right now. If anybody wants to take a look, there's a guy named Anthony Sangria, I believe is his last name. Anthony
Uh-huh.
Sangria. He rides a decoy, a YT decoy out in San Clemente,
Hmm.
and it looks like his reel is in like 1.5 speed, but it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
He just rails, and I think he only has like 324 subscribers. And when his videos come out, I get all excited, like, oh man, I can't wait to see this
yeah, yeah.
guy.
That's rad.
Oh,
You'll
it's
have to
fun.
send me a link, and then I can throw it in the show more for the people later, and we can try to help him out. He'll be like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god." You know, when you're like at like 300 subscribers and you get like 5 in one day, you're like,
Yes.
dude, this is
Yes.
sick.
It's happening. I don't know what
Right?
happened. YouTube loves
Yeah.
me today.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
Oh, that'd
that's
be
rad,
rad.
man. Right on,
Yeah.
dude. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show and hanging out with me. And
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me,
yeah,
Robert. This is awesome, man. The
for
biker bar.
sure.
Dude, I made the biker bar.
Right?
What?
Freaking that's it. YouTube dump truck of money's coming tomorrow. So any of you guys that want to hear me on Mark's show, the segment, I believe that we're set up for December 5th, which is a Sunday.
That's
It'll
right.
be right after the biker bar. So you'll be like locked in for, I don't, how long are your shows usually?
It used to be a couple hours. I'm trying to dial them into an hour just so I can help get the kiddos down,
Yeah,
so the wife is
yeah,
not doing it all. I got
yeah,
little ones at home, so I'm trying
yeah.
to do
No,
the
I totally
balance there.
understand. So December 5th, if you
December
want to
5th.
see what he's been doing over there in the meantime, definitely go over to his podcast. You can search the segment on YouTube, or you could look at the show more notes down here. If you're listening to the podcast, there should be a link to his merch store. I think that's in there. I don't remember which one I put in the show more. I think it goes to your website.
Yes.
Either way, you should be able to find his stuff. You can search him on Instagram as well at the segment _PR, or Facebook, same thing. And while you're on Facebook or Instagram and you haven't followed me, go ahead and do that. That
We
would
got
be
to break
great.
1,000. Break 1,000
There you go.
on the Facebook for you, brother.
Yeah, dude, I cannot get over 1,000 on Facebook. I can't do it. I
You
don't know
will.
what's
You will.
happening.
This is the year. How
This
close
is
are
the
you?
year. Huh?
How
I
close
don't
are
know. I
you?
think it's like 900 or something like
Oh,
that.
dude, come on.
It's
Before
close, but it's like
2022.
I have zero faith in it ever happening. It's crazy because I have like almost 5,000 on Instagram, but like Facebook, just a bunch of old people over there. They don't even care.
It's our parents. Mark
Right?
and Robert,
Yeah.
you guys be careful now.
Right. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. Those of you
Blast,
guys that
blast.
want to help me out, please swing by my Patreon. I would love to send you a handwritten letter or some merch, or if you just want to throw $1 at me, like I said, just like buying a beer, man. The guy just pours it for you. It takes him like 10 seconds, and you give him $1, and you listen to 2 hours of this podcast. The least you can do is throw $1 at me.
And you get some sweet codes, right?
Right? Yeah, you get some discount codes even for $1 a month.
That's
for real, dude.
awesome.
There's been some people that sign up for $1, get the codes, and quit the same day.
No,
like, really? For $1?
Oh my gosh! If your discount code saves you $50,
right,
at $1 a month, that's how many years of savings is that for the podcast? That's pretty cool.
You're telling me, man, $12 a year, it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure. You're gonna save more than $12 on those discount codes.
Oh, 100%. There's a discount on there for Project 321 hubs. You're buying a $600 pair of hubs, you're saving like $100. Like,
hey, for $1 on the Patreon. Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I'm expecting to see you sign up for my Patreon, Mark.
Yes, I will be there. I will be there. That's some good savings, man.
Right on, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Like
This
I said,
was fun.
And everybody out there, if you remember one thing, that would be great. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.
Be one.